Hey, what's going on, man? It's me, the guy from Silencer, and I'm talking about this new Obskuritatem record. That's right, Obskuritatem came out with a new record, which I guess basically translates to the record title of Arrogant Nihilism. Now, I looked it up on Google Translate, and it was some fucking Arogantni nihilizam bullshit, but I mean, let's face it, I can't pronounce most of the records in my record collection, so why try to wow you with my attempts to read some other language? Arrogant Nihilism is the new release from last year from Obskuritatem, and I'm talking about it today because it was on my best of list last year, and I'm still catching up with that. I've been aware of Obskuritatem for a while, and I've got every single Obskuritatem record. That's right, flex post. But anyway, I have watched this band evolve with each release over the years, and it's been actually quite interesting because a lot of bands in this genre crank out records over and over and over. This like stuff which I hear people saying it's LLN influenced, which I get, and I hear that, especially on this record. But for me, when I saw the title Obskuritatem, it reminded me, like I saw it the first time, and I said, well, that's clearly an Abruptum worship band, right? Obskuritatem, Advocatus, whatever the fuck, Avocado, I don't remember that record, but I saw the name, and I thought, okay, this is going to be some fucking Abruptum shit, you know, people banging on shit, people screaming and moaning and sounding like they're jacking off and stuff. And I'll tell you what, with the early records from Obskuritatem, which, by the way, is a one-man project from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't know anything about that country. But anyway, it was a little more along those lines. And we're talking exactly what you expect when you see dude in a hood with a ninja mask on and squiggly lines above his head. But here's something I found out about Obskuritatem, man. I went around, I was like, man, these guys are... This guy, I should say, has been around since 2012. And he must be like the forerunner, the forefront of the ninja mask squiggly eye shit. And I did find out he's kind of the first dude that did that. I never hear people say like, yo, I kind of like took my look from Obskuritatem, but there's a lot of bands that do it out there, right? Lamp of Murmur, talking to you. Sidan, a little influence there. All these newer sort of bands that are doing this look. And I'll tell you, when I was getting ready to get my list together of all the people that kind of stole a little bit from Obskuritatem with the facial covering squiggly lines, I had a bunch of primary offenders. I said, number one, that fucking Shadow Dungeon guy, he totally ripped off Obskuritatem's look. Coming after that, fucking Sulfuric Night. Come on, man, you're literally stealing the guy's look. And after that, I'm starting to look around, and then I'm jamming this record. I have the LP, obviously, because I'm cult as fuck, but I'm jamming this record on YouTube, and so I'm like, let me look at the comments and see what people are saying, because this one sounds different, and I'll get into that. But all of a sudden, these dorks in the comments are like, oh, yes, Osman does it again. Oh, yes, oh, Osman, him and all of his bands. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to look at this. Now, I'll tell you, I don't like it when people get in the fucking comments and blow it, because for Obskuritatem, this dude is called O, right? That's all I want to know. That's all he wants me to know. When you buy any sort of black metal record, especially this kind of shit, one-man shit, with high contrast black and white cover of some dude standing in the cape holding the candelabrum, you do not need to do the research and find out who is behind it. This artist, this guy, Obskuritatem, has built for you a little kingdom that you can visit. Part of that kingdom is the image that he puts on his album cover. It's the fucking look of the album itself. As soon as you start Googling and finding out that fucking Osman works at some fucking mechanic shop somewhere in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and his favorite fucking bubble tea flavor is taro, it ruins it. So nerds in the comments, stop doing that. But nerds in the comments, thanks for doing that, because I don't look like a jackass for saying, yo, Sulfuric Night, Shadow Dungeon. Stop stealing from Obskuritatem, because he had the look first, because apparently it's the same guy, and that blows my mind, because fucking Sulfuric Night and Shadow Dungeon also put out two amazing fucking releases this year, and have been on my like list of cool shit for quite some time. And so what I'm getting at is the dude behind this band, Sulfuric Night, Dogman, all these other fucking bands, is literally cranking out some of the best black metal and adjacent shit that I have heard, going all the way back to fucking Return of the Leopard King from fucking Shadow Dungeon, and this year he merged sort of like a black metal sound with Shadow Dungeon, but I'll get to that later because that's on my top of the year list anyway. But this record, let's just talk about this record for a second. Like I said, all the shit that he has released, I've kept up with it. And it started as something very different. It started as something you could probably say, well, you know, this is super fucking cool. It's definitely fucking abruptum-ish. It's definitely LLN-ish. It's got that fucking French sound a little bit as it evolved. But we never saw this record coming. And by that I mean a lot of bands in this genre like to cover up their lack of ability with a lot of fuzz, a lot of fucking buzzsaw guitar tones, a lot of reverb, all that shit. And that's fine, right? Because this genre is not based on needing to be a fucking virtuoso fucking Kenny G or something to take part in it, right? Part of the charm is the fact that a lot of these bands are people doing what they can with the amount of talent that they have and still making something kind of like fucking compelling, if you ask me. I don't need you to be a fucking virtuoso. It's the same thing with like the Ramones and punk rock, right? No difference. But this band, Obskuritatem, this dude, since we've all blown his fucking identity, Osman, way less cool now that I know that's what he calls himself. Anyway, this guy is a fucking talented motherfucker. This guy has all the ability in the world, and on this specific Obskuritatem record, he kind of lets that show. Because on the ones previously, man, it was kind of shrouded in like some pretty shitty production, which is fine, right? The necro sound, whatever. But after, you know, over 10 years doing what this guy does, it has to evolve, and it certainly has. And like I said, the dude does Shadow Dungeon, the dude does Sulfuric Night, other shit that I'm not as familiar with. But what's starting to happen with the sound of Obskuritatem, in my opinion, is that all of these fucking projects are starting to hone themselves into one entity. Now, I don't know if there'll ever be a time when Obskuritatem, Osman, reckons all of these different compartmentalized projects that he has in his head and puts them together. But the closest we ever got so far is on this record, and it's pretty amazing, the result. Sound quality wise, you still get all the shit that you loved about this band before, but it's not hiding underneath of anything. And it's allowed to sort of shine, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, this guy fucking knows what he's doing on every fucking instrument. And it's amazing. It doesn't fucking, it doesn't hinder the sound or the atmosphere at all to be able to hear all of the different guitar parts that are going on with two guitars, with the drumming, with these amazing vocals that he has on this record. Everything's able to sort of like stand out, and it doesn't do anything to like the atmosphere. So this album in some ways could serve to crush the idea that, well, a big part of black metal is you gotta fucking have all this shitty production because it's atmosphere. No, this record is just as compelling, is just as emotionally intense, is just as fucking terrifying as anything Obskuritatem has done in the past. It's just that now there are layers that you can fucking pull apart and find new things in. And actually, this record is like bordering on the idea of what it was before, but also transitioning into things that sound a little bit more like songs in terms of structure-wise. Like previous Obskuritatem records, I'll put them on, and you're like, well, which track is your favorite? I'm like, I don't know, fucking the one where he fucking moans and screams for like 6 minutes straight and bangs on something, and there's a chainsaw guitar. That's everything. This record is very different, my friends. This record has a track listing, and it's not just a way to break up the same one big long track, because everything sort of has a different feel to it. And it even talks about that in the description of this record that Black Gangrene put out. That's right, this came out on Black Gangrene. If you live in the United States, your best bet for this is probably going to be Nuclear War Now, because they tend to get a bunch of fucking Black Gangrene shit in. And that's where I got my copy of this record. So good fucking luck. And it's 2 discs. And I'll tell you what, man, they both hold up. Because these sort of artists too, sure, when you're like taking a fart on a fucking, microphone and calling that vocals and just playing one super tremolo riff over and over again. It's easy to crank out a record a year. It's easy to crank out a 6-disc set. Obskuritatem does not do this. Obskuritatem is a composer. It's very clear the guy who's making these records has intent when he goes into songwriting, and it shows itself in this record. This record is incredible. This is by far the best thing that this artist, this guy, has ever put out. And I'm probably lumping in Sulfuric Night, and I'm probably lumping in Shadow Dungeon. Like I said, those are the projects of his that I've kept up with. Dogman, I haven't heard too much. There's a million others listed on Metal Archives. Don't go on there. Don't look into it too much. You'll ruin black metal for yourself. Let it be this thing where you buy the record, it takes you into this person's weird little fucking kingdom that they created. If it's got a high contrast black and white cover, that's what you're supposed to do. Don't be a fucking nerd and dig into the history of this shit. But here I am blowing it for you because someone blew it for me, so whatever. Anyways, this record's amazing. It's got a couple covers on it. It's got a Mütiilation cover, and it's got a Nargaroth cover. I fucking love Nargaroth because that dude gets it. That dude's not afraid to be a little bit, fucking, I don't know, what are you going to say, man? He's not afraid to make up a little fucking story about his band. He's not afraid to write some lyrics that are kind of goofy. I'm telling you, though, if you like that shit and you kind of like, I don't know, man, I feel like the Obskuritatem cover of the Nargaroth song on this is better than the one that Nargaroth did. I don't know, man. And one more thing, man. People keep saying in the comments to the actual record that was posted, pure LLN worship, pure Mütiilation worship. Man, I know when they're saying that, they're saying like, yo, there's my seal of approval, man. One hoof up, it's good. Listen, this is not just pure Mütiilation worship. If you listen to this and go, yeah, it's just Mütiilation clone, you're fucking wrong. There's so much more going on here. Mütiilation's great, right? We all fucking love Mütiilation. That's why we're here, right? That's why we're doing this here today, because Mütiilation started some cool shit and probably got a lot of us into it. But here's the deal. This goes above and beyond what Mütiilation has ever done. And that's not me shitting on Mütiilation. I'm just saying if you're going to do something and call it worship, you also need to evolve it a little bit. And Obskuritatem is head and shoulders above that. It incorporates more sound. Now, if you're coming to Obskuritatem like I did because you want some fucking Abruptum worship, you're not really going to get too much of that shit, right? At least not the old school classic two guys jerking each other off and cutting each other and screaming about it in a basement kind of thing. This is way more musical, man. If you're not coming for songs, this may not be your favorite. But I'm telling you right now, this is by far the best Obskuritatem release that he's ever done. People hold his Vampiric Cacophony, the 2016 release, in really high regard, and that's super cool. That's one of the things that I listened to when I first got into Obskuritatem. But this is not that. This is an evolution from that. And if you just want to return to that same old sound, you might be a little disappointed because these feel like fucking songs. And the opening track for me is the best track on the record. I love the way it starts. I love the way it gets right into it and starts to bring you into this sort of realm where Obskuritatem has finally pulled back the veil and said, like, I'm capable of so much more and let me show you. And it takes you places. There are things on this record that feel a little bit like, I don't know, melody and feel a little bit more than just your classic dude in the basement banging on shit. It's so much more. This is one of the best releases of last year. And within this genre, and by within this genre, I mean, you know, dude in a cloak with squiggly eye makeup holding a candelabra, wearing a cape, taking high contrast black and white photos, and also having one of the coolest fucking logos in black metal, which has little demon ghosts floating around on each side. It's got little shades of mortuary drapish kind of stuff, and you know that's up my alley. Anyway, this is one of the best things going in this genre, and probably within this genre, in terms of like dude in a cape shit, this is the best one that came out this year. This is probably the best, you know, fucking whatever you want to call it, Mütiilation worship. One dude in the basement doing crazy shit, because this is not what this is actually, so I need to get that out of my vocabulary right now. This sounds like a big record. Still has, you know, the production that allows it to exist within this genre, but this is bigger than that. And if you don't check it out, you're probably fucking up, and you got to take it from me because I'm the guy from Silencer. So there we go, man. Obskuritatem, if I'm going to rate this thing, obviously, because it was in my top 10 last year, it gets all 3 candles lit on the fucking basement black metal candelabrum. But that's not what this is, so don't label that. Obskuritatem rules, Black Gangrene rules. Go track this down. It's 100% worth it. If you've never heard this band, start here. And then I'll say you're not cult because you don't have the old stuff. But start here because that's the way to do it.